a coffee shop in Piqua, Diane Park and Alicia Lange thumbed through hundreds of documents. Lange says she and her neighbors in this Miami County city have led the effort to find out what's been going on at the Public Safety Regional Training Center here.
And there's just so many gaps. I just truly don't think we'll ever know.
Here's what WYSO has learned. An Ohio company called Energy Safety Response Group, or ESRG, worked initially with Bowling Green State University for years to test what conditions made lithium-ion batteries catch on fire. Some of the batteries were as big as 40,000 pounds. City officials claimed it was one of only 2 such testing sites in the country, at least as of 2020. The way the program was authorized meant few people who live near the site knew it was happening or had a chance to oppose it. And unlike permits for polluting emissions at manufacturers, it also meant no regular inspections or data reporting. Coupled with the lack of state oversight, Lange says the city put residents' health at risk by allowing these tests.
And that's just so disgusting that the leaders of our community are okay with these chemicals being released in an environment that is so readily accessible by citizens and the community.
Resident complaints eventually led to an Ohio EPA visit. The department ordered the company to cease testing, alleging it had installed unauthorized research equipment. ESRG and Bowling Green haven't responded to multiple requests for comment. The Ohio EPA also declined several interview requests, but it responded to questions by email and recorded statements. Bryant Somerville, an Ohio EPA spokesperson, helped explain why the fires were allowed in the first place. He says the fires were done under what's called an open burn authorization.
Ohio EPA issued permission for open burning involving lithium-ion batteries in Delaware County in 2017, before that operation was moved to Piqua in 2018.
This was the first time the state agency issued an open burn authorization for lithium battery fires. The authorizations refer to it as research and training. The Piqua Fire Department was permitted to complete these burns. Neither Bowling Green nor ESRG are mentioned in these authorizations. Currently, no other sites in Ohio are permitted to burn this material. Open burn regulations ban some materials like dead animals and garbage, but they allow these batteries, treating them the same as burning wood or prairies. Transparency measures like public comments and local notification aren't part of the open burn authorization process. Inspections of open burns also aren't typical. That meant when residents saw or smelled smoke, they weren't sure of the source. They began complaining to the OEPA in May of 2023. That prompted it and the Regional Air Pollution Control Agency to visit in September, according to OEPA spokesperson Somerville.
The purpose was to gather information and ask questions about ESRG's process.
The agencies allege ESRG had installed an unauthorized burn room and expanded the testing well beyond what was permitted. That's according to the site visit report. The OEPA issued a notice of violation, calling it a nuisance in the community. The state agency revoked the city's permit and ordered a stop to the burns. To understand the danger these burns might have posed to the Piqua community, WYSO asked Michael Peck to review the Ohio EPA's site visit report.
There's been historically a lot of concern about battery fires and the toxic nature of the batteries, and especially when they get heated up.
He's a University of Maryland professor who researches lithium-ion batteries.
How often the tests are conducted will make a difference. Clearly, it just results in more toxins in the air and more pollution when one disposes of these products.
Peck says, based on his reading of it, he'd be concerned about what happened to the tested batteries, as well as the water that came into contact with the batteries.
The destructive testing can result in fires and also results in the opening of the battery, and there's, the leakage, so to speak, of the contents within the battery.
The Ohio EPA says ESRG told them that tested batteries were recycled. Even so, Peck says batteries can combust and let off emissions days after destructive testing, recycled or not.
They do mention that they monitor some of the pollutants, but The pollutants that they monitor don't include things like hydrogen fluoride and other potentially poisonous compounds that can arise.
Hydrogen fluoride is a corrosive acid, so it's dangerous when inhaled. And Peck says other metals such as aluminum, cobalt, and nickel could also be released. Residents have come to city commission meetings demanding to know more. So the city agreed to test the soil and water. And the OEPA used modeling to evaluate potential air emissions. The results indicate no lasting contamination, but the Ohio EPA acknowledges its own results contained limited research and incomplete emission data. Piqua residents might not have known about the testing, but those in the battery industry definitely did. Here's Nick Warner, founder of ESRG. He gave an interview posted to YouTube during the Energy Storage Association conference in 2021.
Though our initial mission was focused on emergency response and subject matter expertise, we got really busy with testing, with advisory, with helping people get systems in the ground.
In a draft state grant application, a former Piqua city engineer says energy storage safety is a critical issue that threatens to stymie use of this technology. Companies from across North America, Europe, and Asia have had their materials tested at the Piqua site, including Tesla, Enersys, and Soft. That's according to emails obtained through a public records request. WYSO also obtained logs documenting these tests. They record almost 130 tests between 2021 and 2023. Some involved batteries as large as 40,000 pounds. It's possible that residents' exposure to chemicals is even larger than what's been documented. WYSO found discrepancies within test documentation that suggest the company didn't record everything accurately. For example, a neighbor called 911 reporting heavy smoke on November 11, 2022. A police report says workers performing battery tests caused an outbuilding to become engulfed in flames. That incident appears nowhere on the spreadsheet compiling the test results. University of Maryland professor Peck says this type of testing is important, but it has to be done responsibly.
When you're doing the testing, you want to make sure that you're doing it in a safe manner. And especially when you're doing destructive testing, that there's proper disposal and make sure that there's no contaminants in the air, poisons in the air. And in terms of for the community, you would want to be transparent about what you're doing so everybody understands, what are the potential risks to the environment and to people's health.
Piqua city commissioners have started taking action. In addition to the environmental testing, they created a resident committee to investigate the fire training site. The group began meeting in April, but some members told WYSO in late May they've been frustrated with restrictions on how they can interview staff members. Piqua Mayor Chris Lee declined an interview, but responded to questions in a recorded statement. He says this committee will share its findings.
Ultimately, Commission is hopeful that a citizen-led independent review of the research activities at the site will put our residents' mind at ease and provide us guidance on how to prevent a situation similar to this one from happening in the future.
And Piqua City Commissioners banned the burning of batteries on city-owned property in late May. WYSO asked why the city agreed to this testing. In an email, Mayor Lee says, regardless of the merits for or against the battery testing, the city's position is to no longer permit it on city property. The pushback is coming at a critical junction for the city. Now Piqua wants to use the training facility for its intended purpose, to train city safety crews. In April, city fire and police departments held an open house at the site. Scott Reidenauer attended. He lives less than a half-mile away. He said at the event, he's especially worried about what he could have been exposed to during the testing program.
I'm just concerned because I don't know what the actual whole truth is. So I'm concerned for our health, my property value, the ability to maybe sell the property.
Piqua Assistant Fire Chief Tim Risner says the department wants things to be different going forward. That includes setting up a notification system to let residents know when fire training will take place.
We understand that there's got to be trust that has to be built up, and that's what we're trying to do.
The Ohio EPA says in an email it will increase on-site inspections for both existing and new open burn authorizations. Resident Alicia Lange says the environmental agency never should have permitted this without knowing the risks involved.
And it's upsetting because these are the organizations that are put in place to prevent this from happening, yet it feels like they're allowing it.
Residents like her are still awaiting more information. Until then, they don't plan to stop demanding answers. For WYSO News, I'm Adriana Martinez Smiley.